Hello, this is John Lawson, and this is a screencast on gears. And I'd like to talk today about core regions, Wrightbalance core regions, and the effects of different core regions on club fitting. So on the screen now, you've got two examples of a lower core on the left and an upper core on the right. And you can see with the lower core, we have the same angle of thigh angle and torso angle or spine angle here. So a little bit more upright torso angle than the upper core, who's slightly more leaned over with less angle in the thighs. So that's the first thing we're going to have. So obviously the club's going to be slightly, or the hands are going to be slightly closer to the ground with the upper core. So that's going to change the static lie angle. Talk about lie angles a little bit further down the line. I'm going to take both of these up to the top, and what you'll be able to see straight away is the length of the backswing. So the lower core will tend to have a shorter backswing than the upper core. We'll look at this from above with side by side, and basically what we can see here is going to be more hip turn for the upper core player, and obviously more shoulder turn than the lower core player. So a little less here, 38 basically degrees of hip turn for the lower core, and 45.6 for the upper core. Let's go back to down the line, and what I'd like to show you here is now basically impact position. So both of them at impact here. Now for the upper core player, we've gone from an angle at address which was around 62.5 degrees to 66.7, so much more upright now, or standing up at impact than he was at address. And the lower core is pretty much in the same place as he was at address position. So more of rotational force for the lower core, and more vertical force for the upper core. What I'd like to show you is what sort of influence that's going to have on the club now. Now we can see lie angles. This is basically what I like to talk about in this video. So the lie angles for the lower core, the toe is going to be slightly up at address and slightly down at impact. So only sort of 5 to 6 degrees of difference between address and impact. This was a very flat club. I was just testing stuff with this club. But there's only 5 to 6 degrees of difference between address and impact. If we compare this to the upper core player, the club's going to be more sort of flat on the ground at address, and it's going to be further down at impact. This is obviously being the vertical force being used, so the player standing up more at impact than address, and the difference will be higher, so more 6 to 7 degrees here than the lower core player. That's the first thing. And this movement was going to change what's going to happen to the shaft. So I'm just going to zoom in on the shaft on the lower core player here. And I'll just put a visual on that shaft here with the shaft deflection line. You can see there's very little difference here between the original position of the shaft and the position of the shaft at impact. This is what we call the droop, which is the head moving down at impact from its original position and creating a slight sort of droop of the shaft towards the floor. And if I go towards the upper core player, you can see there's going to be much more of this droop going on. And this is basically just the center of mass of the club head wanting to realign with the center of mass of the shaft. So the more difference there is between address and impact, the more the shaft will droop and the more the lie angle will change. So this is why an upper core player will have, or will tendency to have more upright lies than a lower core player. So generally, the more there is rotation in the swing, the flatter the lie will be, and more the vertical force is used, more the lie will tend to be upright. I've prepared a chart to explain a little bit more the different tendencies of this, and I'll show you this in the next page. So this is the core region fitting characteristics chart which I've put together. I'll be modifying this progressively, get some more angles in here, maybe this sort of difference of degrees between each core region, But just basically here you can see the different core regions here, upper, middle and lower, and the difference we're going to have with lie angles, obviously being more upright for the upper player than the lower core. We're also going to have lie change, which is going to be more for the upper core than the lower core. Loft will also change, the loft you want on different clubs for different core regions, and the CG placement, which will be also different for different players. Sole width will also change. The upper core being more of a covering sort of swing will generally be better off with a wider sole than the lower core with a more under release. The face angle at address being flatter at address, or the toe less up, would tend to point less to the left for the upper core player than the lower core player. Then we can go through all the different shaft characteristics, more droop for the upper core than the lower. The twist, the kick, and all this sort of stuff, this is all going to change as well. And you can come down to the grip size, which will be thinner for the upper core than the lower core. So lots of stuff to be looked at again on this chart. There's lots of stuff to be taken a little bit further, but this can give you just a general idea of what's going on in fitting. And there's a lot of changes from each core region, whether it's an upper or middle or a lower core. I think this we'll be able to take things a lot further with this now, and maybe get some different angles and percentages in there.